just trying to survive and learn to love along the way. By Foreplay on AO3. Episode 26, Chapter 26 of Home and Rest. The train ride is blissfully quiet. Not many people taking this route this early in the day. Izuku spends the majority of the train ride leaning against the window, watching the scenery. Shouta sits next to him, while Hizashi sits directly in front. Ida and Todoroki sitting as far away from their teachers as they can while still being in plain sight. Once they reach the station, they find Midnight waiting for them, ready to drive them home. Ida's parents meet them there, and awkward introductions are made. Todoroki just waves at them and walks in the direction of someone so similar looking that can only be his sister. The trip in Midnight's car is awkward. Izuku doesn't know the pro hero well. Hizashi sits in the front seat next to her while Shouta sits in the back seat with him. Midnight must be a rambler because when she's in an awkward position, she will not stop talking. It made Shouta roll his eyes with a fond smile at least 5 times now. And those are only counting the ones he's caught. It's probably a dozen at that. Izuku was so relieved when they pulled up into the apartment. He got his seatbelt undone before the car was even parked. He knows better than to try and get out of the car without help. Hizashi opens the door and helps him out of the car before leaving his attempts of the walking himself. He manages until they're inside the building. The elevator has a big out of order sign posted on it. They live on the 5th floor. His leg and torso are already causing him pain. Izuku knows he will never make it up those stairs. Hop on. His musings are interrupted when Shouta squats low in front of him, barked back in a familiar pose. Izuku climbs on top without complaining. It'll be easier this way. He glances behind them halfway up the first set of stairs and regrets it immediately. He's higher up than what he would be if he was walking. If Shouta were to slip or drop him, it would be a long and painful fall. He tightens his grip on Shota's neck when they start up the 3rd set of stairs and buries his face in the man's capture weapon. Going up the stairs on someone's back is not as fun as he thought it would be. He doesn't look up until they're standing in front of their door with Hizashi inserting the key. As soon as they enter, the cats are curling around Shota's ankles, but the man is easily bypassing them to put Izuku gently down on the couch, up against the right armrest. The man isn't even out of breath from carrying him up 4 sets of stairs. Hizashi is shoving a warm blanket onto him, and Izuku is rearranging it how he likes it before the cats are on the couch, both of them trying to fit on his lap. Radio shoves Toothless to the side, and she digs her claws onto his thigh to regain balance. Normally, he wouldn't mind, but it's his left thigh, right where he got stabbed, and he can't help the cry of pain that escapes him. It's not nearly as bad as when he got the wound, but he hasn't taken anything for the pain today, and it's already hurting him from the efforts that took walking. So, the dig of her little claws feels awful. He knows he's panicking, but he hasn't had to calm himself down alone ever since he moved in with Hizashi and Sho. It's hard to remember how, especially with how short his breaths are getting. There are hands on his neck, a warm and calloused and most of all, familiar. It's enough to bring him back from the brink of panic, and he blinks through his tears to see Sho's concerned face. He reaches up, shaking hands, and wraps them around Shota's wrists, keeping his hands where they were as he uses his pressure to ground himself and breathe through the pain. It's several minutes before he's calmed down long enough to let go of Shouta, and when he does, the man slowly removes his hands, and Izuku immediately misses their presence. Thank you, Sho. His voice feels wrong in his throat, and he knows that today will be a hard one for talking. Only now does he register the warm hand rubbing comforting circles on his back, and the soothing voice of Hizashi murmuring reassurances. He leans into the touch and sighs, closing his eyes and trying his best not to move. There's a soft tap on his head, and Izuku's opening his eyes, and finds Shouta standing above him. He's got a glass of water in a hand, and some pills that he hopes are painkillers in the other. Izuku's favorite sweater is slung over an arm. He hadn't meant to steal Hisashi's sweater. It just sort of happened. It's the sweater that Shouta threw on him the night they rescued him. It was the first time in forever that Izuku felt warm and safe. He'd worn it again after the hospital and just kind of kept wearing it. It's like a comfort item for him now. It almost feels like home when he wears it. He doesn't realize he's spaced out until their cool press of the glass in his hand, and Shouta gives him a funny look. He accepts the glass and pills, then hurriedly shoves the sweater over his head. There's a thump as he hears something fall out of the pocket, and Izuku stares at his phone from where it now sits on the floor, mocking him. Hizashi huffs a laugh as he leans over and grabs it. He hands Izuku the device, before settling back down on the couch beside him and turning on the TV. He carefully avoids the news and settles on one of his favorite movies, A Star Wars Return, as Shouta sits next to Hizashi, leaning into him slightly with a smile on his face. The sight is heartwarming to Izuku. When he first came to stay with his teachers, it had been weird. They were all awkward around each other, and Izuku could tell that they were trying to be less affectionate with each other for his sake. And he had felt like a kid watching fighting parents for a bit until they realized that he simply did not care, and presumably went back to how they were together before he arrived. It's nice to see how much they cared for each other. The cats came, sinking back into the room, approaching him warily. Radio jumps up first, settling on the armrest on his right. Toothless is a lot more hesitant, as she claws onto his lap, carefully avoiding his leg. She rubs her head against his arm in apology before laying down, a comforting weight on his lap. Izuku turns his attention to his phone and grimace. There are several missed calls and texts from Shinsou, and even a few messages from Kirishima. He bought his phone off to Shouta when he and Hizashi had met at the hospital. He's glad he did. He is seeing how overwhelmed Todoroki and Ida had gotten with the texts from friends and family when they found out that they were in the hospital. He decides to check the message from Kirishima first. Midoriya, are you okay? I saw on the news that our senseis and an intern took down the hero killer. I knew you were interning with President Mike. Midoriya? That's it. I'm calling Sensei. He says that you're fine, but could you text me back when you get these? Izuku didn't think Kirishima would be so worried about him. He texts back right away. Sorry, Kirishima, didn't have my phone. I'm a little banged up, but I'll be okay. He leaves it there, and finds similar messages from Shinsou. There are just a lot more of them, plus all the missed calls. Sorry, I'm fine. A little hurt, but I'll survive. Shinsou must have been waiting for his answer, because not 3 seconds later, after he sent the message, his phone rings. He hits answer and holds the phone up to his ear, completely unprepared. Midoriya, what happened? Are you alright? I... His guardians look over at the sound of his voice as his throat clogs up. He can't speak, and Shinsou is still talking in his ear, trying to get him to say something. He shoves his phone at Hizashi, and the man squeaks a little before glancing at the ID caller, and holds the phone to his ear. Shinsou, he's fine. Sorry, but he's not really up to leaving the house right now. It's hard hearing only one side of the conversation, but he can always guess what was being said. Izuku, Shinsou wants to come over. Do you want to see him? Izuku shrugs, unsure. His friend had always been a comforting presence, especially with everything that's been going on with him for the past few weeks. But Izuku doesn't know if he'd be up to seeing anybody right now. He jumps a little as Hizashi gives him his phone back. He really wants to see you, so I said he could come over for a bit. The second things go poorly, he's gone, okay? Izuku nods, grateful for his quick thinking. Alright, okay, so... I find it interesting that Shinsou, called 1,000 times, just like, hey, you good? Alright, can I come over? Right? Don't get me wrong, Kirishima was also worried, but, you could tell the difference between Kirishima's worry and Shinsou's worry. It could also just be presenting itself differently, and I can't wait for the next episode. What's the next episode called? Or chapter? No, I could say episodes now. I keep having to remind myself that I could say episodes. So, chapter 27 is of Friends and Visits, okay? Summary, a wild Shinsou appears and witnesses his teachers being soft. I love that. I love that. That's gonna be interesting. I can't wait for the next chapter. Oh my god. Luckily, I'm gonna record it right after this one. You guys have to wait a day. I don't have to wait a day. Except, if you guys think being, left on a cliffhanger is hard enough on one day, waiting for the next day for it to come, imagine having to wait 3 days. Yeah. Because I'm gonna be on a trip. I don't allow myself to read ahead when I'm recording. Mainly because I like to have my pure reactions while I'm here. and have all my thoughts fluidly, like, stuff, whatever. Like, I can take notes and then later talk about it, but I feel it's better if I just, do it on the hand, like, at the now, So you guys get to see me on the now, and I get to predict stuff, and, it's easier. It's just easier on me, right? It's a whole lot easier, right? For the most part, when it's a fan fiction that I've read before, I like to, do that. When it's a fan fiction that I've read before, I have different type of notes. It's not me predicting the future. It's a little bit of reaction, yes, and it's a little more of like, oh yeah, so this according to this and blah blah blah. It's a lot more methodical, Sorry, I'm a little. Okay, as I was saying, right? But I don't like to read ahead, so for that time that I'm going on vacation, because I'm going today. Today's the last day. I'm recording the day I'm going on vacation, alright? I'm recording. I should have been packing. I'm joking. I packed beforehand. But I'm recording right the day we're leaving. We're leaving in a couple moments. We're literally gonna arrive over there late at night at not the hospital. At a lake, and then from there we're gonna go to where we're going, stuff like that, right? We're gonna arrive pretty late in the night, because we're gonna go after all the kids' therapy appointments, which their therapy appointments are pretty late. They go to therapy at 3, and then they come back at 4, which reminds me I need to call the therapist there and see if I could get myself an appointment, because I very heavily need therapy. Also, Shinsou and Izuku, I love Shindeku. Ooh, Shindeku. Right now I'm going on like a whole frauge with, not frauge, but like hyperfixation on Eraser Mic. Let's just say I have read a total of like 20, espresso shots. Okay, I've told before that I really hate one-shots. Or not hate, but I prefer reading long fanfictions over one-shots. And this is true. I don't like reading one-shots, right? But there's a difference between a one-shot and an espresso shot. Alright, for me, a one-shot are fanfictions that are 1,000 words long, 5,000 words long and lower, right? 7,000, 8,000, it's going into the roughy waters of, it could be considered a one-shot, but then it could also be considered a espresso shot, 6,000 also, but, so for the most part, I cut it at 5,000 below, right? But anything above that, like let's say for example, 5,000 words through 30,000 to 40, or not even 30,000, 40,000, 25,000, right? So 5,000 to 25,000. In that short range, that is an espresso shot, right? Right? Espresso shot. And from 25 to 50, right? That is what I would be considered a short story. Oh, or a short novel, right? 50k through through 90k, that would be considered book length, right? I would consider 70,000 book length because that is the average, but 50k all the way to 90k, that is a good length of like, yeah, that's normally the range of books, right? 90k to 150k, that is a long book, right? That is a long book. That is surpassing average. This is Harry Potter length book. 50k to 150k to 200k, right? That is now, okay, you're passing the average like big book, right? 200k and up, that is a whole book series, all right? And you cannot tell me otherwise. That is at least 3 book series right there, right? That is my marking. So I like espresso shots. Don't get me wrong, sometimes one-shots are okay. I just normally like when there's more, you know? Espresso shots are great because when I want to read something, but I don't want it to be so fucking short, it's quick. It's 1 hour, 2 hours of reading. Espresso shots, quick, right? Especially if like they're 20,000. Normally I read my espresso shots from 10,000 and up, right? That's my thing, 10,000 and up. Right now I'm reading a lot of espresso shots because there's not many Eraser Mic long fics, right? There's a lot of espresso shots and one-shots, but not, you know, whatever. And it's the case for most ships and things like that. There's gonna be more one-shots and espresso shots and short novels than there is going to be of average length books, which is where I like to read. I like to read my fan fictions as an average length book. Normally that takes me up to 2 days to finish, right? Mainly because I like to pace myself and I have, other responsibilities. I got into a long tangent. I'm gonna, as always, Marian drops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds, have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.